CRiiiME is a show where I, Rich Slaton, read a true story about lawbreakers.
With his girlfriend, Joan Shefsky.
And it is so nice to have a girlfriend because sometimes a girlfriend, she'll do things like pick a fight that you have to get into.
I'll do everything. We hate fuck after the fights.
That's most of our relationship at this point.
Mm-hmm. I like fighting.
We hate fuck, and then you know what I do afterwards? I play the music.
Play the music while we fucking hate fuck.
CRiiiME is the show that starts now.
Oh, like right now?
Oh, yeah, do your line.
Oh, okay. Each week, Rich reads a real crime story. I don't know a word that rhymes with story.
And my homie John always has the hot riff. He really loves it when you send...
Don't send anything to me. Don't you dare.
CRiiiMEpodcast@gmail.com.
Don't you send
Label
anything.
it John Shefsky. He loves them. Make sure the lighting's really good.
What's up, criminals? Welcome back to the podcast dungeon below the Comedy Store, where I'm assuming many murders at some point took place, which makes it appropriate for a place for us to host our show. I said host.
You said host?
Sometimes
We're trying to host a show
halfway
over
through
here.
making a word happen,
No, it's
it
cute.
becomes a different word.
I was complimenting you. I love it when you do
If that
that.
happens to you, it might be helpful to have I fuck up the intro to my show insurance from our buddies C3 Risk and Insurance Services. Guys, I have a friend named Joe Erle. We've been
So do
friends
I. I
since I
love
was
Joe.
like 8-9 years old. Shefsky kind of knows him. They've met a few times.
He's a
But
sweetheart. He hugs me for real.
I was at his son's bris. You understand what I'm talking about?
And he
We go
ironically
deep.
likes me more.
Here's how much I trust Joe Erle. Is I'd recommend him to you as your insurance broker. Joe and C3 Risk Insurance Services, they go out, find the best policy to match you so you can get car insurance, home insurance, business insurance.
Co-host that screws up the intro insurance.
Oh my gosh, that's so necessary insurance. You can go ahead and call my buddy Joe at 619-233-8000. Ask for Joe Erle or go to C3
You just said Joe Erle.
Joe, yeah.
That's his porn name.
You know what? Ask for Joe Erle instead of the $25 Amazon gift card that he gets you if you get a policy.
He will love that.
Hit my buddy up. On the other hand,
Tell him Shefsky sent you. He loves me.
we also have a fantastic sponsor, our good friend Deke Heddleson, and a piece that remains.
A piece that remains.
Guys, when those hard days come and you have a friend, a loved one, or a pet who passes on, there are many ways to dispose of that person or that family member or that friend. And one great option you have is a piece that remains cremation art and jewelry. Our good friend Deke Heddleson, she creates a wide variety of beautiful ways to memorialize those people that you care about, those people and pets that you care about the most. A necklace? Got it. A painting? Got it. A turtle that's like a turtle sculpture that's painted? That's there too. Do you want art that memorializes your people? Well, hit up our friend Deke Heddleson at apiecethatremains.com or facebook.com/apiecethatremains. Peace spelled P-E-A-C-E, by the way, because they are at peace in that beautiful fart. Beautiful fart. In that beautiful
You are an insane reader
forever.
today. You're insane.
Hit her up. She'll give you 10% discount on any of her wonderful services as long as you just mention our show. And she also does non-cremation art as well.
Oh
So
my God, she does some great stuff.
she makes a ton of cool different stuff for all different sorts of occasions.
I got my wife's Mother's Day present from her. I got a sweet necklace from her. It's gorgeous. She puts these cool colors in. They're trippy, but they're also, you can still go to a regular restaurant and not look like a hippie on acid. I don't know. It's just great stuff.
Those are two fantastic ways to support the show. You can also support the show by joining our Patreon
page.
Sticker of the Month Club.
Oh, join that club, baby.
Patreon.com/CRiiiMEpod, crime with 3 eyes. You can, if you want, there's an entry level where you can just get access to our bonus episodes, our boner episodes. Where
Oh, this is
Shefsky
so
and I
much fun.
Just hang out and goof off. For a little bit more, a little bit extra, you can join the Sticker of the Month Club. $5 a month gets you a new crime-themed sticker every single month.
Every month. And
Designed by my friend Jon Shefsky and then edited for content and offensive by me.
Well, he's
and then
gotta filter
redesigned by
someone.
Jon Shefsky and sent to you so you can put it on whatever you want. You can put it on a dog, on a friend, on a car, on a government building. Don't do that, but do that. You know what I'm
It's
saying?
so much fun, and the listeners actually get to partake in that. Like the way we pick what topic's going to be on the next sticker is our listeners. Like if we get enough that say, "Hey, say that one quote," that's how you get it. So you have a say in these stickers.
Now, even
how much
more
power
fun
in this world
than placing a sticker illegally on different items
is making love
going
under the moonlight.
to the Brea Improv on July 31st or the Comedy Loft in D.C. on August 8th and 9th to see our guest today, who's headlining both of those events. We'll put those in the show notes so you can find them. Put your virtual hands together for our good buddy, Jon Huck!
Wow. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for the in unison intro.
We
You're
bring you
welcome.
together with power. If
It's
we don't
the-
say it together, you're not really here.
It's all we know.
Power? Unison?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
By our voices combined, I have the power.
Oh, a little bit of He-Man?
Little Captain Planet, bruh.
Captain Planet.
Yeah.
Oh, combining.
I think so.
Didn't He-Man say I have the power?
Yeah, and the Captain Planet said, by your powers combined, I am Captain Planet. So I did a little mashup there.
Oh, okay.
I'm like a DJ.
Don't worry, He-Man probably stole it from some ancient tribe that we don't hear about anymore. So it's all been ripped off.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's all good. It's an indigenous saying they used to have before the Roman culture took over.
Henry
He-Man did.
Tufts was born on June 24th.
Turns out he wasn't so tough. I just wanted to say that before we got to that point.
Tufts.
Tufts?
With a T. Tufts.
Like you have a tuft of hair sticking
Yes.
up.
Boom. Look at that.
Turns out I didn't listen to the whole word.
This John knows what words mean and how to listen.
God, every day is
Not
an
always.
interview
This
on the
John-
show.
Not always.
This
not
John
always.
just has hair blocking his ears so he can't hear things.
Oh,
Friends
yeah,
to
but dude,
find-
I would love to have that much hair. Oh, man.
$20. I'll cut some of this off for you right now.
Oh,
Beavis and
what
Butthead
a
at you.
deal. What
Just
a
glue
deal.
it right
I'd
on
also love to have $20.
Henry Tufts was born June 24th, 1748
Recently.
in Newmarket, New Hampshire.
All right, Stephen Hawking's.
Well, also because there was nothing settled after New Hampshire by 1738 or whatever. That was all the land we had, right?
That was pretty much the entire...
That was it. That was
Yeah.
the U.S. right there.
Actually, the rest of the land didn't even exist. It just grew into fruition.
Well, no. I mean, it existed. It just had...
I don't believe you.
Can I ask, what is time and what is land?
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? Anyways.
Henry grew up working in his father's modest tailoring shop. By all accounts, he lived a normal, happy childhood with decent parents and no education.
Very happy.
For some reason, he eventually began to steal.
Why do you say it like that?
Well, no education.
Yeah, that kind of seems like a little might tip that. If you have zero education, it's
How are you going to make money? How are you going to get anything? You're going to take it.
I don't know. I'm figuring it out right now.
He started small, swiping the occasional fruit or vegetable from the neighboring farms.
I didn't even know that was considered stealing.
Well, if it's not yours and you take it,
But like a farm has so many apples, and like some of them are just going to get eaten by
Yeah,
wolves anyways.
but
You might as
like,
well have one of them.
Tower Records had so many CDs. People took them, and now look where they are. Gone.
CDs don't grow on trees,
That's a good
Slaton.
point.
What, you ever been to the CD tree?
There is a thing called the CD tree as well.
Oh, there is?
You can buy it. You put your CDs in it.
Yeah.
Used to be. I don't.
People
think
don't have them much anymore
I
because
don't
they're kind of
think it's
useless.
a very popular item anymore. But
Yeah, I had a company. I started it last year. Went out of business real quick.
Real quick?
Seems like CD cases and like trees are not a big thing anymore.
wait, you had a company
Yeah, a whole company that was based around selling CD storage.
as late as last year?
Yeah. It was,
Oh, so you're on the verge of the trend.
we had shirts that had like EST 2017. The shirts, oddly enough, sell better than the CD cases.
I bet.
So
I bet.
that's strange. At the age of 14, during a walk through a nearby field, young Henry discovered a sickle left outside by a farmer taking a break.
Which one's the sickle? That's the what
This-
the Grim Reaper has it?
Yeah,
It's like a sling blade.
it's like a smaller scythe. The Grim Reaper has a scythe. A sickle is a smaller version of it.
Okay.
Boom.
Grim Reaper's tool. Okay, got it.
Henry,
Don't they call them sling blades too?
That's
I
a
think
movie.
Is that?
Yeah, but in the movie, doesn't he say like some people call it a? What does he say? Some people call it a scythe. I call it a sling
I don't
blade.
watch any movie that marginalizes anybody, and that marginalized farmers, and it made me very upset.
Get on with your story.
He picked up the sickle and stashed it in some nearby bushes. When the farmer returned and discovered his missing tool, he immediately suspected
Where the
Henry.
fuck's my fucking sickle?
I bet you said it just like that too.
Right? 1700?
Yeah, 58-ish or 1762. This would be.
Was fuck even invented as a word back then?
I don't know.
Because I remember I thought Deadwood was like quote by quote like how people talked, and they were like, no, they didn't even say these words in those days. On Deadwood, they curse a bunch. It's like really fun to see the cowboys all
What?
cursing.
Really? They didn't talk like that at all?
No, I watched an interview with the guy who created it, and David Millich, and he's like, they didn't talk like that. We just, to show people how extreme they talked in those days by saying like gall dong it and dang it and whatever, they upped it for how we talk nowadays.
OMG, Billy the Kid just murdered a ton of people.
I don't know. No, I would have if that was. They
It
should
bummed me out.
Yeah, they should have stuck to. I would rather hear like, you knuckleheads. Like I would rather hear like something.
I agree. I felt like I was lied to. I was all excited. Like Cowboys said, "Fuck a bunch."
Yeah, I just
They
figured
call
were-
each other cunts. Oh
Okay,
man, they were
here's
so
what we do.
hardcore.
Sorry, Mom. Here's what we do.
sorry, Mom.
We go back in time
And to all the cunts of the world.
and we establish fuck. So we get to invent it by going back in time. That's my plan now.
That's your plan. You wouldn't like
That's
invest
what
in.
That's what you're gonna do with time travel.
You wouldn't invest in like some stocks. You would go back and establish the word
like
fuck.
all the stocks of Apple you could get your hands on.
Maybe stop a famine.
Here's what I would do with the time machine. So I go, all those things where like someone would go, oh, my brother made up this joke or this game that like every single elementary school had.
Yeah.
I would go back and invent all of them so that they were mine.
Oh, you have such a huge ego.
Yeah, have we not been on the show for like 60-something episodes together?
Uh-oh.
I have a big ego fetish.
So the farmer returns, discovers his missing tool, and
waffles.
immediately suspected Henry, who already had a reputation for thievery due to his love of produce.
And was hiding a giant sickle-shaped thing under a cloth.
Furious, the farmer stormed over to the Tufts' home and accused the boy of the theft. They argued back and forth, but
He stole my fucking sickle, your fucking stupid fucking son!
Wow, that's a lot. What are they? I don't even know half the words you said there.
Oh, because it hasn't been invented yet?
Exactly.
And what is this fuck he keeps speaking of? I don't give any fucks about this.
But Henry refused to admit to the crime. Eventually, the owner stomped away in a huff. 1 year later, Henry collected the sickle from the bush and sold it for a small sum.
Wait, 1 year later?
1 year later.
So he's a patient thief because the payoff, that's pretty, in a time when I'm assuming like wooden nickels were a thing he wanted a lot of, right? So like, why wouldn't he have tried to sell it?
This was a different time. This is when people had patience because things took a long time to get done.
That's true.
So nowadays we're living in nanoseconds, but in those days
he can't go on eBay and get rid of it immediately.
he's like Martin Lawrence from Blue Streak, but in 1762.
He hid it in the woods and then came back, but nothing had been built around it.
Yeah,
because
really lucky.
There was nothing. Amish police
he gets
department.
back, the tree's just bigger. He's like, man, I better figure out how to get around this bigger tree now.
Oh, well, I'll just walk over this way.
Young Henry had a natural talent for crime and continued to learn valuable lessons. He and two friends planned another youthful heist. First, they would steal a loaf of bread and some cheese from a nearby old farmer named Stevens.
Oh, it sounds delicious, too. The old days when people actually made the bread themselves. Oh.
That would make for their lunch. The money would come from Stevens' fields, where they would swipe as many cucumbers as they could carry.
I know how they store
There's money
those.
in them there cucumbers.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm always trying to tell people when they tell me I'm crazy.
They were ready to enact their plan when one of the boys lost his nerve and offered to get the bread and cheese from his own house, while the other two stole the cucumbers.
Were they going to put any of the cucumbers on the sandwich? Because I bet cucumbers with bread and cheese is delicious.
Not a bad idea.
It's really delicious.
Yeah, I can tell you firsthand that it is very delicious.
Right? You put
Also,
salt
if
and
you
pepper.
dice up cucumbers and throw them on a tortilla, a little bit of mustard and some pepper.
Unfortunately, the 250-year-old...
All our listeners are like, God damn, your guest is poor. What next? A little spaghetti ketchup, huh? There you go. It's a little trick I learned back in...
This is going to shock you, Shefsky.
Whoa.
Jonathan, this will shock you.
Say that 10
but
times. Shock you,
the
Shefsky.
250-year-old historical record does not include whether they plan to put the cucumbers on the sandwiches. So...
Does it say if they put them somewhere else?
When he returned with the meal, Henry and the other boy already had a pile of long green veggies. As they sat, you dirty boys.
As they salivated, squatting and stretching, getting ready for the challenge.
As they sat eating their fill, a sudden sound came from the nearby trees.
You know how fast you're going to shit if you actually fill yourself up with cucumber to where you're super full? Like you chew enough cucumber up and have it in your belly to where you're like, I am stuffed.
By the time you are stuffed from eating cucumbers, you have to shit.
You've already shit.
Like whole cucumbers.
And it comes out as another cucumber.
It does, and then you can peel that and then dice it up.
I thought it comes out as
Throw it on a
It's the
tortilla, put a
circle
little
of
mustard, put a little pepper on.
That's your solution for everything cucumber?
Dice it up.
No, don't pickle that. Don't pickle that. I have a tortilla right here. It's a mustard.
Mustard. Dice it.
Henry, so a sound comes from the nearby trees. Henry jumped to his feet and yelled out a warning that they'd been discovered by Stevens before running off. The other boys did the same. But the old farmer caught Henry and forced him to provide 3 days of labor in exchange for not pressing charges. When Henry told the other boys, they thanked him for taking the blame. They agreed, out of a sense of honor, to pay their share of the penalty by giving Henry a day of work each on whatever job he wanted.
Oh.
Yeah, pretty cool, right?
These guys are good, honest. They made a mistake. They were kids. They did something wrong. But instead of getting punished, bad draconianly or whatever, this person is like an adult. It's like, I'm going to teach him a lesson.
Remember, Henry got caught.
Yeah.
And got 3 days of agreed to do 3 days of labor.
Certainly.
And the two other boys who didn't get caught were like, dude, we'll do 2 days of stuff for you.
Yeah, one will do 1 day, the other do. So they're each doing 1 day of labor.
This sounds
Now,
like honest humanity, even though they made some mistakes.
This was a great deal for Henry because he had not actually been caught.
Wait, he lied to them?
As they sat in the clearing, Henry realized that his companions
Henry.
were anything but real criminals. That, and he wanted all the food for himself. So while the boys chowed down on their bread and cheese, he tossed a rock behind their backs.
Do you ever do a story about someone that's likable?
Yeah, last week.
Oh, okay.
After he ran away from Stevens, he doubled back and followed the other two, making sure they went all the way home, then returned to the clearing, gathered the bread, cheese, and cucumbers, and moved it all to a new secret location.
I'm so hungry for a cheese and cucumber sandwich with like
know,
a little
right?
sprinkle of garlic, salt,
Do a
and
little mustard, a little pepper.
Like a tortilla.
on a tortilla.
Yeah, you know.
man.
Oh,
Gotta keep those
shit.
carbs down, dude.
All
Keep
the
those carbs
essentials.
down.
Are carbs like better on tortillas than sandwiches?
Less.
Really?
I don't
It's
know.
a smaller quantity, so it seems like it should be.
Yeah.
That's why all those sandwich places go, but you can get it on a healthy wrap.
I don't think that's true though, because if you look at what is a tortilla but a smashed piece of bread, like a smushed down.
Yes and no. You're right. I mean, each tortilla, depending on the size,
That's a good point.
equals like a one piece of bread.
Yeah, so we're not fixing
There's nothing
anything
healthy
here.
about wraps.
Like what-
Don't let anyone trick you.
I want to eat
It's
right
a
now, but I don't
spectrum
want
of
to.
health.
Okay.
Henry continued in much the same way until his 20th birthday, when he asked his father for a portion of his inheritance so he could start out on his own. But Dad turned him down.
Because his dad knew. He's like, you're going to waste the money on some fucking cucumbers and tortillas and mustard.
Has he been stashing bread and cheese this whole time?
He has most of the bread and cheese in New England. There's a shortage, and it's mostly his fault.
And it's all on him.
But Dad turned him down because his estate was so small that splitting it between his sons would leave each with nothing of any real value. By gifting it all to his eldest, there was a shot it could be used to grow a bit of actual wealth for the
Smart.
family.
Team up with your bro. Make it happen. Keep the family name.
That did not matter to Henry.
Ah, you're not going to do that, huh?
He did not care.
He did not want to work for his brother.
It's like, did they have a bad relationship? Did you find anything? I mean, it was a long time
Nothing
ago.
about his. No, it didn't seem like a bad relationship, but
That
does he
should be important.
Does he seem like a hard worker so far?
Yeah.
No, he seems like a thieving guy, but
Does he seem industrious?
He also doesn't seem very loyal
Humble?
too.
Well, he's had a couple plans that have worked in his favor.
Mm-hmm.
So what's to say he can't hatch another one?
Believing that his father owed him some sort of compensation for his years of work,
Oh, this guy sounds like a real piece of work. You
other
sure this
than
isn't-
a roof over his head and
this isn't
clothes
like-
and
Right.
food stuff.
Sure.
This sounds like a teenager in Glendale, like right now. Like, I deserve the Beamer.
Henry stole his father's horse and rode all the way to Chester, where he sold it for $30.
Shitty
Probably
kid.
a lot of money.
Around $950 today.
So like
Well-
$1,000, but a horse. That's a life right there. You just stole someone's friend.
Yeah.
They're Mr. Ed, taken out of their life.
We don't
think it was
know
a
what the
friend
guy
back
was
then.
doing to the horse.
Yeah.
He could have been fucking the horse. We
The
have
dad?
no idea.
But that's friendly.
You think the
Yeah,
dad? Would,
I mean, I don't think the horse likes that, man. I don't care what anybody says. I don't think the horse likes.
Depends which way
a
the horse is
human
going.
dick. A horse might want a horse dick in there, but I don't think a horse wants a human dick in there.
isn't a human dick just a tiny, tiny horse dick? So they're just like,
it's
it's a weak
tiny
dick.
human dick.
Yeah, no, actually, it's bad to the horse because the horse is like, this is so disappointing. I'm used to horse dick.
Yeah, honestly,
and you're bringing me this tiny human dick?
I love
What I should
animals.
say
but,
is,
you know,
God.
the person
What
who
does he got
tries to fuck a horse will let the horse down. The horse will then make fun of that person to their horse friends.
Yeah.
And then all the horses will know what a small human dick that person
so
is.
if it's not going to bother you and you're a horse, you got nothing better to do. Let the guy fuck you and then roast the shit out of
Let
him.
the guy. Come on, dude. Now you
Please.
sound like
In
you're
this day and
some
age?
sort of Hollywood executive.
If you're a horse, though,
Just let him fuck you and you get the part.
it's a horse.
Hey,
John, it's a horse.
horses are in movies too.
Yeah, I
True.
know, and they probably had to fuck to get there, and they're horses.
Do we
though.
have to get those no animals will harm people on this podcast?
Probably.
I'm not saying we should fuck horses. I'm just saying, like, if you're a
Oh,
horse,
well, then
and
I have to go.
You'd be.
Henry,
You are a wild card, Mr. Jonathan Huck.
Henry traveled the countryside working odd jobs and spending more than he made. Within 2 months, the money ran out.
He spent it on.
Me and Henry have a lot in common.
So he returned home, gave his dad what little money he had left, and went back to work.
Oh, so he came back and was like, "Hey, sorry, I took your horse, sold it. Here's a couple bucks."
So he's a true LA child.
Yeah.
He blew all the money, went to rehab, and parents are still like, yeah, but you can live in my house still.
Sure,
That's
come
fine.
on.
We'll pay
get-
for everything.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
what would you do if he was your kid? You'd be like, "Get out of here, you
In-
trash."
in
back then, that's exactly what they did. They said, "Go live on your own and
I'd
start your
probably
own
kill
farm."
him back then. In that era, in like the 1760s?
You could tell him, take the sickle you stole and take some black sheets and go do like a Santa Claus during Christmas thing, but the Grim Reaper during Dia de los Muertes at the mall.
2 years later, Henry met
Good advice.
a girl,
Oh,
Lydia Bickford.
Lydia.
The two hit it off and were married
Labia Dickford.
immediately.
quickly, within a
Okay.
year or so.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's how they did it back
that's
then.
That's lots of long courtship.
She was probably a
back then.
spinstress at like 17 years old.
Literally, a year in those days was like, 3 weeks.
Yeah, average lifespan was like 27 years.
Right?
Yeah, a year in those days was, with the exchange rate, probably
A month and a half.
30 years.
Yeah.
So
I was going the wrong
Everyone
direction.
lived to be
everything
6.
was going great until someone stole 2 bags of rye from a local farmer. Of course, due to his reputation, Henry
was
was
a suspect.
accused. But this time, he was innocent. Nonetheless, the case went to trial, where his years of thievery were laid out for everyone to hear. He was found not guilty, but the damage was done.
Oh, it ruined his rep?
His reputation was trash, and he was unable to get credit from anyone in town.
Uh-oh.
Even in those days, it was important to get credit, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Can you can't get layaway?
Hopefully. Faced with a life of poverty, he left his pregnant wife and fled up the coast to Saco, Maine, to start fresh.
Oh, really? You just
Wait.
ditched her?
Yeah, he was like, yeah.
I'm broke. How am I going to give these people any money? I got to get out of here.
Yeah. That's the move.
Woo! How many deadbeat fathers throughout history, huh?
Most of them.
How many crime stories do we not even know of because of deadbeat daddies or mommies or deadbeat daddies and
I think
mommies?
most dads left throughout history.
Yeah, honestly, there's a lot of Rolling Stones and Beatles in this world, huh? I am the king of so-and-so, and this is my land, and I have 400 children. Cream pie, cream pie, cream pie, cream pie, cream pie, and gone.
Henry took a job on a farm, clearing land and tending livestock. He constantly
Cream pie, like he just
Like a
There were
machine
so
gun.
many.
like he cream pied in him
Like
and
a
then
t-shirt
just,
cannon?
He just
took
left.
off.
He just
Yeah,
left.
yeah.
And I mean, you can't do that. It's not right.
Well, no, I mean,
A generation of fatherless children. Who will teach them to wrestle?
He constantly complained about the meager pay of an uneducated farm worker.
That sounds like that's exactly what you get paid, though.
He eventually
Meager farm work, lowest point of pay, right there.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything in the farm work that insinuates at that point in time that there's going to be
Until you
more
get-
than minimum wage.
Until you get
to be made.
tenured.
You got to stay there for at least 15 years.
Yeah.
What's the pension plan on this farm in 1768?
Do I have dental and vision?
I don't know. Did you bite that strawberry that you picked that you saw in front of your eyes?
Well, there's a tree and there's a window, so good luck.
What do you tell me? What's the tree for my dental?
Yeah, we make wooden teeth for you.
Gotcha.
you guys just reminded me. I got to get a new flosser. Go on with your story.
Where the shit was I? I've been doing the thumb thing real well
I'm
for a
gonna
long
staple
time.
your thumb
It's been
to a script.
It has been a long time since I got lost. I'm going to tell you that. I'm going to point that out right now.
I know. Hey, baby. I'm
No,
cool.
what's
I
up?
appreciate what
We
you
good?
did. Yeah, and I like
good?
your shirt today.
And he eventually caught the ear of a coworker, James Dennis, after spending enough time side by side to realize that Henry was, quote, the right sort of man.
To be a rebel with James Dennis.
James
the
approached
original.
James Dennis. Never trust a man with two first names.
Right?
Especially if one of them's Dennis.
Larry David, right?
Never trust a Dennis, is what I would say, actually.
Yeah, Dennis, Denny.
Yeah.
Real
Oof.
shady.
Dentist, the mentist.
Donald,
Yeah,
which is a
dentist,
weird way to say
mental.
weird thing for Dennis because Donald's right there.
Dentalist, the mentalist.
James had a plan.
On A&E.
That
a reality
plan
channel.
was to rob a store at night.
His
That's the whole
plans
plan.
don't. His plan at night. At least he's advancing his. His methods are growing.
This is James'
What
plan.
year is this?
Oh,
This is like,
sorry. This is James's
Yeah,
plan.
This is like
that's why it's
18
more advanced.
yeah.
This is like 1810?
No, this is 1760s.
Still in the 17th.
Yeah, he was born in
So what did these guys
1748.
look like in that era? Was it like they were in tights and like those weird
Hot.
jeans and like
Everyone
everything's all
dressed like
wool and
everyone
sweaty?
dressed like Buster Keaton
I feel-
or Charlie Chaplin.
I feel like they
Okay.
all looked like Burt Reynolds. That's kind of what I think.
Okay.
in Deliverance, or they all look like
They were wearing
they're in-
bowler's hats
they're
and
in
weird shoes.
vaudeville. They all look
They're
like
in
vaudeville
shape,
acts.
but no hip dips. You know, they're in Burt Reynolds shape.
Yeah, they're in whole milk shape of the
Yeah,
old days. A lot of
exactly.
butter and whole milk. But,
Yeah, that'll grow your bones strong.
Right?
Wait, so James's plan is to go rob the store at night. Is what's the other guy's name?
Henry, our main character.
Our main character is Henry's plan going to be to like take everything they steal and hide it in the woods, and then tell James he got caught?
Well, let's see what the next paragraph says.
Nah, let's just assume.
At first, Henry was unsure. This was a big step up from pilfering local farmers.
But after having a sandwich consisting of,
Cucumbers, mustard, pepper on a tortilla.
he realized that
This was a time when you could be fined for simply missing Sunday church too often.
Oh my God, it's just like the NFL.
good Lord, it's that show with the women in the weird hood things and the Handmaid's Tales. But it really happened, folks. It's terrifying. Dystopic.
Crimes such as burglary, bugoolery,
Bagoolery.
could result in much harsher penalties. In many of the colonies, the culprit would be branded on the hand, cheek, or forehead
Oh, yeah.
with the letter corresponding to his crime.
Then they could just get a job as a body piercer.
B for bugoolery, T for theft, or F for forgery, as examples.
Those were the 3 crimes you could commit.
The only ones
that
possible.
was it.
Dial, shit. What's a good letter for murder? Man, this book is not going to write itself, tell you that
F
much.
is F work for murder. Final destination.
Those could be considered the lucky ones. Others might find themselves at the end of a noose.
You notice how rape wasn't in there? Wasn't it a cruel time back then?
Yeah, that was not considered a crime.
They're like, that's no big deal, but you forged some paperwork that was between 2 gentlemen.
So, of course, Henry said yes. After dark, they snuck in a store in Saco owned by a Mr. Pickard. After 30 minutes, all they had was a couple of bundles of English goods and no cash.
What are English goods? Like crumpets, tea?
I was just going to say, biscuits.
Things owned by the government of England, I think. Like imported by the
not
English.
toothpaste.
A die-cast double-decker bus. 1/20th scale. You know, English goods.
I just picture like an Antiques Roadshow thing going on in there.
Yeah, like a ginger beer in a really cool can with like the Queen's face on it.
They left with their haul and made their way 20 miles down the coast of the town of Wells.
Wells.
There, James.
We're here.
God, that was the most necessary riff of this entire episode.
Don't you wish Joe Dosh was here to spank me for that one?
Smack you over the head.
I'm going to beat you, Jonathan.
There, James had a friend, Richard Dutton, who would help them store and move the stolen merchandise.
He was what's called as a fence.
The three men had some celebratory drinks before James and Dutton went out to sell some of the take. By the way, I just want to commend you on having learned a vocabulary word in all your time on this show.
Thank you. I'm very proud of myself.
But James and Dutton made a mistake of setting the prices so low that their buyers immediately suspected the goods were stolen.
Did Disney hire you to do a fucking plug right now, motherfucker? I heard that. Solo?
Oh, I see what you did there. Yeah.
Everybody's plugging that film, huh?
Someone called the magistrate and the men were arrested. Dutton immediately flipped, telling everything,
God, pussy.
Dutton didn't do nothing.
including that the remainder of the goods were at his home along with the other thief, Henry Tufts. He received a full pardon.
Oh, nice.
But he did receive some just desserts when the men arrived at the Dutton household to arrest Henry Tufts.
And Henry was gone with the goods.
They found him in bed with Dutton's wife.
You gotta fuck Dutton's wife.
Oh, man. Folks, the penis wants what the penis wants.
Look, you smell a rat, you fuck his wife. I think that's the rule.
Fucking Dutton in the button. Woo.
Henry found himself imprisoned at the Falmouth jail alongside, it might be Falmouth, it might be Falmouth. I'm going to go with Falmouth.
Little Miss Dutton had a sweet little muffin. Diddle, 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 diddle. She had me over to do some fucking. Diddle, 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 diddle.
Alongside his new buddy, James Dennis.
You ended on a.
Wait, so he's in this is sharing a cell or in cells next to each other?
I don't know.
Or they
if
just both went to prison.
Henry and James are both in this. I mean, it's a jail. So it's like a local.
yeah, they
you know,
don't
it's like a colonial jail. It's
What
not
color were
like
the walls?
A
Slaton?
hut with some like sticks for bars.
I mean, I'm almost sure.
Yeah, it's
As
just
you-
real hot.
Like cloth
inside.
walls? Like it's like kind of a tent thing. He was chained up.
No, I'm sure. I mean, there was definitely. Oh, you know what? I know what it was made of because listen to this next part of the story.
Yes, sir.
As you might imagine, 1770s colonial jails were less than comfortable.
I did not imagine that.
Within a couple of months, the men decided it was time to leave. So
They decided it was time to leave the jail.
So James and Henry came up with a new plan.
Punch through the wall that's made of clay and walk away.
Oh, they're just sitting in a circle like Indian style. Like it's actually a mental prison, fellas. We just need to focus and
It's
we
the
can
Matrix.
leave. Break
All
the-
right, we get in the laundry cart and then we hang on to the bottom of the truck. Have they invented trucks yet?
No.
Damn it.
The
There's no-
stagecoach. We hang on to the bottom of the stagecoach.
Ooh, they don't have those yet either.
What?
Maybe a cart?
1800s?
Is
They
there
don't have stagecoaches?
This is 1770s, bro.
We don't even have the word fuck yet. I mean, what the fuck are we supposed to do, fellas?
They're riding around on horses. Stagecoach. They gotta have that shit.
Well, they don't have country concerts if that's what you're talking about. Oh, the actual stagecoach? No, they have
Yeah,
those.
the festival.
Yeah.
the
Their
music
plan-
festival.
That's right.
To burn their way out.
Like,
Uh-oh.
The prison was made, the jail was made of wood.
and they were going to burn their way out.
Set it
Burn
on
their
fire.
way out of the jail.
Does that
And
mean,
they don't think that this might cause them to be burned alive inside a coffin of their own making.
Huh, let's see what happens.
Okay.
oh my God, this is going to be a crispy story.
I don't know a lot about wood or metal bars that probably were holding them in there.
I do know one thing. It really hurts to touch fire.
As it was very cold, the guards thought nothing of providing the prisoners with a small fire to keep warm.
Oh, see? The guards were trying to do the right thing and seeing the human inside their prisoners.
They didn't take into account the material the walls were made of. Henry and James set it on fire and waited for their opening. But it didn't take long to realize that the fire would kill them before they were freed.
Yeah, do you realize how long it would take to burn through walls, Henry? Holy shark.
Come on, guys.
Oh my God. And they're Huck, you could see a teenager in today's day who's never around a fire to think something stupid like
Yes.
that. But they're in the 1700s where they're constantly been around fires their whole fucking life.
Yes and no. I mean, they're not. Look, these guys are not sharp dudes.
They're
Okay,
not firefighters.
They're not They're not
Yeah,
firefighters.
but you're living by fires in those days. You're cooking on fire. You're heating your house with fire.
No, a guy named Cookie cooked on fires, and like,
Yeah.
he was the dude that cooked, and then you went over there and got your slop and
You
ate it
think
out of
men
it.
cooked in this era?
Are you serious?
This is 1770s. Women cooked.
Yeah, but if you're out like hunting, which many men did in those days, you got to cook your food when you're hunting. You know, they didn't have Lara bars,
No.
buddy.
No, you just bite into the rabbit and eat it whole.
You got to gut it and take it back so the wife can cook it.
Yeah. Or if you're out, these guys didn't go out in the woods. They're colonialists.
I am not smart enough to battle one, yet two of you motherfuckers right now on the logic of this, but I got a feeling they should know about fire. I'm just saying.
No, they should. I mean, there should be, but they don't know. They wouldn't know, like, you know, how whoever the first person to figure out that alcohol was flammable, like, oops, like, that was bad. Like,
probably the Egyptians.
They didn't know that, like, they were like, wood, fire it burns wood, so we can burn this wood. Look how quick this kindling goes. The walls they probably thought the walls were going to turn to ash, fall down, and they were going to be able to walk out.
Yeah.
Wow. Some people never cease to amaze me.
Well,
They
these
probably
people are idiots. Don't get me wrong.
They probably got laid all the time and had a bunch of cool stuff, though. Like,
By
you know,
the
like, they're
time
big
the
idiots. Like,
guards responded to their cries for help,
they were already burnt to a
Henry
crisp.
and James had nearly died from smoke inhalation.
Oh, yeah, that too.
It took the jailers 3 hours to put the fire out.
3 hours.
That is just annoying for everybody. How big was the jail?
Is it like the podcast studio that we're in right now?
3 hours.
Big
They get
enough.
one Dixie cup of water at a time and run it over from the town pump.
They didn't
Well, I
have
mean,
Dixie cups back then.
Yeah.
What the?
They didn't have pumps. They didn't have cups. They had a stream.
You don't think they had
buckets.
even in the 1700s, they didn't have a water pump?
I don't know if they had wells.
I think
had
they did.
A pump.
We're going to spend this whole episode fighting about what they had or didn't have.
Yeah,
in
I
those
mean,
times.
I just feel, I mean,
They had to have.
They didn't have the word fuck. You think they had a pump?
well, look, I mean, pilgrims.
pump and fuck basically mean the same thing.
Oh,
Pilgrims
pump
have-
fucking? That sounds great. I'm so hungry and horny right now.
Pilgrims had landed, right?
I'm thirsty.
They were moving, and then they became. Then you know what I mean? We were talking like a
I
couple.
feel like the first pumps are in the 1800s. That's what I'm feeling. I could be wrong.
I bet they're before that.
With the
Pumps? Oh my God. The Romans had fucking working plumbing, Slaton.
aqueducts,
Aqueducts,
no
yeah.
pumps. They didn't have pumps.
Yeah, I bet you with the aqueducts comes great responsibility and pumps.
With the Falmouth jail now
Thanks, Uncle
incapable
Ben.
of holding guests due to intense fire and water damage, plans were made to move the men to the old jail, spelled Gaol, in Old York.
Yeah.
Joel.
Yeah, I love old school, old English spelling.
Originally built in 1719, the old jail contained living quarters for prisoners, the jailer, and his family.
Nice. That'd be a good sitcom.
These took up the. That's actually
The jailer and his wife, the professor and Mary Ann. Oh,
And I murdered people.
I think it'd be funny if they used the theme song from Married with Children. The
love and marriage.
yeah, and just went through that and it made it about the family and just interacting. with
Jailer and his wife.
yeah.
These living quarters were all on the main floor with the dungeon set behind 3-foot thick stone walls next to the jailer's kitchen.
You could also use the Living Single theme song.
But
So
I-
living
They
quarters.
can smell the goods that his wife's cooking up, and then they just feed them slop.
Oh, of course. But as the population grew, so did the need for more cells. So someone had the bright idea of putting new cells on the second floor. This was fine except for the fact that the only way to the new cells was through the jailer's bedroom. Only a thin...
Wait, what? This is a great sitcom. Are you kidding me?
I already said it was.
I'm trying to get.
I already
Bring in
validated
more
you.
prisoners, Martha.
Yeah.
Oh, Henry.
Henry, another prisoner at the door.
Only a thin wall with a window to pass food separated the convicts from the bed where their warden shared with his
I
wife.
thought you just said where their warden
That
shit.
is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
his
the
wife
warden was like, "Yeah, this is cool."
That's
Yeah.
how hard it was for employment in those days. You're like,
Well,
hey, it's a job.
They're like, "Look, you can either leave. We can get another jailer in here, a warden,
Or you can bang next to all these criminals.
or you can bang and take shits next to all these people."
What if his wife was like the people that marry like the Night Stalker? You know, she's like, I actually have a lot
She
of
starts
crushes on
writing them
them.
fan letters.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, she-
I'm married to 3 of them now.
She probably flirts with all of them.
So Henry and James were to be sent to the old jail, where Henry was placed in the strongest irons behind the thickest stone walls of the original dungeon. Henry escaped briefly on the way to the old jail, was caught, and so when they got him there, they're like, "Yeah, you've escaped so many times. They're just gonna throw you in the stone one. Fuck the more comfy."
He's a
wooden
real
ones
pain in the
instead."
ass, huh? He fucking narcs on his friends, tricks his friends. He's fucking trying to burn shit down that he's sitting inside of.
Henry
Then he tries to
didn't,
escape.
Henry didn't narc on anybody.
No, Henry's not a narc. He's been narked on.
He's
never
been
narked.
narked on, and he's a little bit conniving, and he's a little bit sneaky.
Okay, whatever. I take that off his rap sheet. He's still got to serve 3 life sentences.
But
He's an
luckily
asshole.
for Henry,
But luckily,
only
Butt luck.
19 days passed before he was rescued by a very unlikely savior, Mr. Pickard, the owner of the very store he'd robbed.
oh, Mr. Pickard.
Why?
Mr. Pickard had an offer. He would drop the charges against Henry if the young man would agree to serve a 3-month term on
Of
his
my
brother's
gay sex slave in the back of my shop like in Pulp Fiction.
on his brother's ship headed for the West Indies.
Where you'll be a gay sex slave
So
wearing
now
a
this
leather
guy
mask.
doesn't have to do any real time anymore. He gets out and he gets a boat ride.
Yeah, a super awesome 1700s West Indies boat ride that's totally safe.
You're going to
and
get
has
like a fever and die if you
yeah,
go
man. No way. That sounds great.
That's when people just died.
This is the original Gilligan's Island because we know what happens on the boat ride.
Obviously,
it's supposed
Henry
to be a 3-hour tour. Yeah. What does that guy got going on? He's not going to say no.
So the men set out on foot to meet the ship.
So there's got to be like a backstory of the relationship. There's got to be some sort of wit and charm exchange between the, what's his name, Pickard and Henry.
Well, this was a common way back. We'll get into it more.
Yeah.
This was a common way of kind of making deals over like compensation. We'll talk about this more. We'll get into it more pretty soon.
Okay.
So the men set out on foot to meet the ship. Along the way, Pickard felt like having a drink. So he stopped at a tavern and instructed Henry to continue on to the shipyard.
Oh, yeah. I'll meet you there, criminal.
Shockingly, Henry got lost on his way to the coast
Oh, my God.
and ended up back with his wife in New Hampshire.
Who's trusting this dude about anything?
He's a romantic, though. He just wanted to be back with his wife.
Yeah, that's what he wanted. Where he robbed her blind and then took off into the woods.
No one back home was happy to see him.
I guess
I know
I
that-
kind of knew what was
I
happening.
know that type of guy.
Everyone was still pissed that he was a thief who knocked up his wife and skipped town. His reputation wasn't helped by more stories coming in about his crimes on the road. He tried to settle in, but no one made it easy. One night, a group of drunken soldiers passed by his home and decided to play a little prank in the form of ripping his house apart.
They knew it was his house. They're like, you know whose house that is? That's fucking
Yeah,
Henry.
You don't understand pranks, John, okay?
Yeah.
This is a good prank.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying how they know it was his house, but like,
There were 7 houses in town. One of them was that dude. It's like, it's not a populated city.
Shit, was that Henry's house or Mike's house? It's a 50-50 chance.
And they all look the same. They were all built by the same guy, so it doesn't matter.
this episode's really making me rethink my grasp on that time period. I don't understand anything anymore.
Henry, somewhat miffed by having his house torn apart,
Somewhat miffed.
pulled out his musket, aimed at the leader, and fired.
He fucking committed murder right now.
But
Holy
the round
shit.
snapped in the pan, meaning it misfired. The gun went off, but it didn't actually fire the round.
Oh.
The sound scared off the soldiers, and the event scared off Henry, who again left his family.
Man, and his wife keeps taking him back, or...
That's how it is when you date a criminal dude. You're like, I'm turned on.
Yeah, I guess he's a bad boy.
Yeah, he's got a neck tattoo. He's got wears a wife
Teardrop.
beater. He's got those K-Swiss shoes that they all wear. They're like, where'd you get those? They don't even know they make those anymore.
There's like a certain warehouse.
Yeah, you know, oh, they have like those Arnett's from the '90s. They're like, why are you wearing? You look like a criminal. And they're like, I am a criminal. And you're like,
That's my uniform.
nice eyebrow piercing, bro.
Out on the road, Henry met another man named James, this time last name Smith.
James Smith.
That doesn't sound made up at all.
That's his real name. Criminal.
The men paired up and went on a spree of stealing livestock and produce from farmers. They carried on like that until their clothes began to fall apart.
Because we didn't steal clothes off a clothesline.
Clothes were harder to steal as people tended to keep their clothes in their houses rather than an empty barn or field. Thinking that breaking and entering into an occupied home was too risky, the men decided instead to rob a store.
Clothes store.
We've had good luck with this before. I mean, why don't we go back to the whole store robbing thing we've been doing? That's been working out great. Yeah, good call, Henry.
Do it at night.
The target, owned by Smith Gilman and Levi Chapman,
The stores get robbed at night. The stores get robbed at night.
Levi Chapman, also known as Levi Strauss.
no, but good call.
Oh.
Different era. It's okay, not a big deal. Was conveniently located back in Newmarket, his original home. With some recon from a third accomplice, Henry and James II forced open an unlatched window, pilfering clothes, money, silver, and more.
They got away with it.
They broke off a portion for the third man as payment for his help before fleeing for Massachusetts, where they planned to sell the loot.
That's where everyone goes, Massachusetts.
But what they didn't know was that Smith and Levi were hot on their tails.
Uh-oh.
Their friend with the information had been caught and tipped off the shop owners to save his own skin.
That's what you do. Those days, people were
You
cruel.
ratted out.
You ratted it out. You don't want to go be in the Iron Maiden or whatever they did to you in those days.
The burglars made it 50 miles before they were caught just across the border into Massachusetts and dragged back to jail in New Hampshire.
First of all, 50 miles back then is a long way.
It's a lot of blisters.
Saying, that's like saying I left California, I was caught in New York after leaving LA.
Oh, yeah.
That's a distance.
significant.
Yeah.
James, too, was placed in a normal jail. But Henry's reputation as an escape artist landed him in a cold, wet dungeon.
He's not even like a real Houdini. He's just a dude who gets put in these shitty places you can walk out of or burn down.
You ever see like an episode of Dog the Bounty Hunter where he has a repeat guy? He's like, it's you again, Chet. Like that's who James is in those days.
Jail escapes were like a pretty significant problem during this time period.
And I'm sure, but everybody knew about it too because like one guy just rode from town to town, like giving all the gossip. Oh, yeah, and then that guy got out again.
He's the cool hand Luke, cool hand Henry.
Henry spent 3 months shackled to an iron rod set in the stone floor.
See, I told you the prisons was start getting weirder and weirder. Iron.
The cell was completely dark and he was completely alone.
Oh, so he went
except
insane.
For the rats who would alternate between eating his rotten food and trying to eat him.
Oh, so he had friends.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, wouldn't you be stoked to have a rat
Look, some
friend?
people are dog people. Some people are cat people. Henry was a rat person.
We had pet rats briefly as a kid.
As long as you're not a centipede person, I'm cool with you. I'll hang out at your pad.
Finally, Henry and James too were brought to trial, where they were quickly found guilty.
Oh.
They received a few punishments. First, each would receive 35 lashes to be given by another prisoner.
Well, that's kind of nice. I mean, the other prisoners could be like, hey, sorry about that, and just give him a little love tap.
Do you think they picked that prisoner, though?
Yeah.
You've seen Shawshank, right? There's a few mean
I
prisoners.
don't really know if I want to do this.
Guys, come on. I guess I'll do it, but I'm going to be real nice.
My
He'd be like,
shoulder's a little sore.
I picked the guy from Def Leppard that's in the cell next to me.
can I give him a lashing?
That's a
with
bad idea because that good arm is a strong fucking arm.
No, but I'd insist on him using the right arm.
Oh, okay.
And
Strong
they'd be
move.
like, all right, we'll hold it into his, tape it to his armpit and see what happens. And he'd be
Yeah.
like,
Do you think they'd let that happen?
well, this is my fantasy, not yours.
Second, he got another 31 days in prison. Finally, they were required to pay Smith and Levi for any losses and damages.
Mr. Pickard came back. He's like, hey, you want to sail somewhere else with me this time?
If they couldn't cover the total, they would be sold into servitude to make up the difference.
Oh, into slavery, huh?
Let me guess. They couldn't cover the total.
This was very common in colonial America. In 1718, British Parliament...
Everyone's all slave happy in the old days. Well, maybe we could have him be a slave.
Just make them slaves.
In 1718, British Parliament passed the Transportation Act, which served to make England money by selling imprisoned convicts as indentured servants to colonialists. Many citizens in America were unhappy with the new law, not because it was wrong to sell people, but because they didn't want their home flooded with criminals. Benjamin Franklin...
Right for the wrong reasons, huh? Jesus, that's
Benjamin Franklin
gross.
even protested the policy by comparing it to packing up rattlesnakes from North America and shipping them back to England.
I mean, honestly, that is a practical.
Why didn't we think about doing that?
That is a practical.
That would have been really fun.
This is
probably
a boat
did.
full of rattlesnakes. Where's it going? It's going back to England.
Oh,
okay.
we would have won the war right there.
They don't survive long at sea. Rattlesnakes. I never take them sailing anymore.
It didn't take a lot to become a convict servant, which is the name they used for this. You weren't a slave, you were a convict servant, and once your term was over, you'd be released.
Oh, I love when the government tries to use fun little get the lawyers to come up with a different name.
I'm a convict servant.
Yeah, how long do they have these think tanks, man? They're really coming up with some good, clever ways to say it. It's a transportation law. That's all. It just involves a little slavery.
It didn't take much to become a convict servant. One man was shipped to Maryland from England for the crime of stealing a silk handkerchief worth 2 shillings, about $15.
Well, also, what's he doing with a silk? Why don't you take something worthwhile? You take a silk handkerchief.
John,
Have you ever blown your nose into silk?
Have you done
I
anything
look
into
at your
silk?
beard and I believe no.
Silk boxers, yo.
Is it worth prison?
Silk boxers, yo. And it's the rush, dude. Winona Ryder, bro.
I don't recommend a silk condom. They don't work very well.
You don't need
I
to
wouldn't
steal.
do that, yeah.
Very porous.
It just feels good to get the thing for free. You know, I saw this shirt at sweatshirt at Target, and I know that I got the cash for it, but look at this. I got it.
From the passing of the law all the way to
Winona Ryder, bro. Hashtag.
From the passing of the law all the way to 1775,
Mm-hmm.
around 60,000 convict servants, known as the King's Passengers,
See? Again, with the wording that sounds all like, oh, it sounds pretty square. That sounds
were
legit.
sent to America for sale.
First class.
Yeah.
While some,
I'm the king's passenger, you see? Shotgun.
while some returned home after their terms were complete, most of them remained. Criminals weren't the only Europeans crossing the Atlantic to serve.
Are you talking about our listeners right now?
Of the nearly 500,000 colonists who came to the Americas before 1776, nearly half of them came over as indentured servants. Venture capitalists and merchants commonly offered to pay the transportation costs of anyone who wanted to cross the ocean in exchange for a term of service. Until slavery really took off in the 1800s,
Oh my God.
Cute wording, sweetheart.
indentured
Cute.
servants made up half to 3/4 of the labor force in the early colonies.
Wow.
So the white people were slaves.
Oh yeah, there's been white slavery. You ever heard of the Barbary Coast?
I would
Yeah.
say
There's a lot of
that
weird slavery through history.
I would differentiate from slavery because they eventually got to leave.
Yeah, that's true. They were once they worked off their debt.
And they had some rights, they weren't beaten or killed or.
Are you sure? Because I read the Barbary Coast was pretty
We're
insane.
not talking about that though. We're talking about.
No, I thought we were just talking about slavery in general, like as a
We're
definition.
talking about what happened in this particular situation in America.
Yeah.
Because I was about to go back to Egypt with the Jews. You know what I'm saying?
But luckily for Henry, he was much better at escaping than stealing.
But rockery.
Was it this? We're not going to find out this is really Houdini, is it?
Probably.
Okay.
Some friends smuggled him a few tools
It's called
in prison.
Houdini with a question mark.
Henry Houdini.
Houdini.
Some friends smuggled Henry a few tools in prison, which he used to drill a hole in the wall of his cell.
A giant file and a long hot dog.
I got it in a cake. They baked it in a cake for me. I'm going to set this place on fire.
When James II held in the adjacent cell,
Not to be mistaken for James I.
specifically why I did that.
Yes, I like that.
When he heard Henry working his plan to escape, James II asked to come along.
So these guys talked about their plan out loud a lot.
Oh, of course, which is the best way to not be discovered.
Yeah, always. If you can, videotape your crime spree as well.
Yeah. Thumbprints on everything,
GPS
fellas.
locators.
Yeah.
That's right.
Use your phone a lot.
Whenever I rob a place, I first check in for the discounts.
Check in.
I have my victims sign release forms.
Henry agreed.
that.
When the time came to leave, Henry told James II the first part of his plan, which required they remove their clothes, turn them inside out, and throw them out the window.
Oh, I've heard this plan before.
Yeah, I was going to say. Turn what inside out?
Once they were both naked, Henry crawled out of his cell, put on his clothes, scooped up his new second change of clothes,
And took off.
fled.
Oh, what a douche.
fucking dickhead.
Henry, even for a criminal, you're just a shady piece
Dude,
of
and
shit.
actually, also, let's keep in mind that this guy has been shafted. Really,
Sure.
I mean, he started out stealing produce. I mean, he just wanted to eat an apple, probably.
This is a guy looking for a carrot.
Yep.
Hid a scythe, sold it for money. Like he wasn't like a crazy murderer. He was just a dude who
Had vision.
We don't know enough about his childhood to really know what set him off on this
We
path.
know that if he lived at that time, his childhood wasn't awesome. Even if his parents loved him, which they probably got rid of him at like a very early age because they were dead at age 27 or whatever. You know what I mean? This guy just didn't have a lot. He didn't have a big chance. And I think some of this like chained 3 months some of that's a little bit cruel for the crimes he committed. Now, yeah, has a record and a sheet of whatever you call it, a laundry list of
A rap sheet?
incidences that he's fucked over his friends. Yeah, definitely. That's kind of weird.
I feel like what Jon Huck just did was the closing argument from the lawyer in the court. It's like,
Yeah.
has he had
So,
it tough? Like, what do you fucking call this thing?
Your
He's
Honor,
got like,
His dad gave his brother all the money.
you're like, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Look, the little bit money he did have, he didn't split with his kids. Okay, so right there, Henry was shafted.
Let this be a lesson to all middle-class parents who are considering not sharing.
While James II remained naked in his cell,
Hats.
Henry rambled about on his own, stealing to get by. He kept it simple at first, grabbing food or clothes necessary.
Oh, like the good old days when I was a
Every
kid.
once in a while, he had a little flair. Once, needing a new pair of underwear, he stole the cushion from the pulpit of a church, ripped it apart, and made his new briefs from the soft green velvet.
Oh.
Not one for waste, he sold the feather stuffing for a little extra cash.
See, look at this guy.
Industrious.
And literally, who's he hurting? Besides the guy he took clothes and left in the prison cell.
Where do you just sell stuffing? I guess.
Where do you sell feathers?
Yeah, I guess in the old days you did,
back
right?
then you could sell anything.
Oh, back then, the time when everyone should know what a fucking fire does. You assholes! Oh, fuck!
Back then you could sell everything but fire or things that started fire.
Butt fire.
But fire.
Back on the road, Henry made another partner, Ebenezer Hubbard.
Well, that already, I don't like this guy. Ebenezer?
Ebenezer,
Come
yeah.
on.
How about Eben? You know what I'm saying?
Eben.
There's a guy named Eben. Remember that Sublime song? My friend Eben is a Nazi. Right?
Ebenezer Hubbard was also a thief, but not a very good one. It didn't take long for Henry to realize that Hubbard wasn't much help in a burglary. He wanted to split up, but Ebenezer convinced him to take one last job, stealing fabric from a local mill.
It's like stealing fabric from a local mill.
It was a success, but authorities immediately suspected the two men that nobody actually knew.
You mean the ones with the weird boxers, sir? Yes, I think I know who you're talking about.
Smooth church pew boxers.
I saw him taking a shit. He pulled his pants up. They were velvet with a weird plaid print on them, and there was
I
actually a
imagine
Bible stuck to one of them.
I imagine he just walks around in the velvet boxers alone.
No pants.
But they're briefs. He made a velvet thong out of
velvet banana hammock.
He was just ahead of the times, bro.
Dude, half shirts and hammocks.
That's the name of my clothing company on Melrose.
I'm just imagining a man walking around in a half shirt and a hammock in 1770 something.
Dude, I mean, it's probably hot back then.
He will be burned at the stake for being such a weirdo.
Henry and Ebenezer were brought in for questioning, but without evidence, they didn't have a case. Until Ebenezer broke down.
Yeah, I did it. Like, what a fucking pussy. I knew it.
Yep.
Would never trust a guy named Ebenezer unless it's Christmas morning and he's throwing you a thing to go down and get a big Christmas goose in the window.
That's the one time.
Lessons to live by, folks. Jon Huck said it here. Remember
God,
that.
It must be tough being an Ebenezer where no one likes you for 364 days of the year. And then that one day you're like, man, everyone seems really pleasant.
I say the world is against you as soon as you come out and your parents go, let's name him Ebenezer.
It's like, who did you name him after that? Like, oh, he looks like an Ebenezer.
Born an old man.
It's a classic case of your name ruins your life.
Henry was sentenced to 20 lashes and 20 days in prison, along with an order to compensate the victim.
What if they gave him 20 eyelashes, like it was a makeup artist on scene?
Like, you're going to look silly for this time
You're
period.
sentenced to
bro.
You
Why
have
not?
to wear these lashes. They're super annoying. They'll get in your eyes. It's really irritating.
Right?
You have to wear it for like a year.
They love stuff like that in the old days. They'd have wigs and they would paint on a mole if they didn't have one. I want a mole. I don't have one. They'd paint it on. You could punish someone by making it
Powdered
wear
wig thing though, wasn't that? Are we?
I mean, no, it's for like people who had money. He
Yeah.
would not have a powdered wig.
No, yeah.
Look,
this guy.
there are two
It's
time
still-
periods in Earth, right? There's before and after September 11th, 2001.
Make
Right?
one
So, so this was before September 11th. Everyone wore powdered wigs.
Powdered wigs and had
Work with me
painted
here.
on moles.
Yes, they painted. I still paint on moles.
Since he didn't have the money to compensate the victim,
Butt pimples, if that was a hobby, like, or that was like the fashion, like, ooh, let's paint some butt pimples on you. Sorry,
Henry-
Slaton, go on with your story, you little butt pimple.
lacking the money to compensate his victims, Henry was put up for sale. But eventually he was released because no one wanted to buy him.
Good Lord, this guy
He was a bad product himself. huh?
clearly had like rotten teeth too. You know.
Given his repeated failures, it should come as a little surprise that Henry finally decided to call it quits and get a regular job.
What? What does he know how to do?
He signed up for the Continental Army, fighting in the War for Independence.
And stealing art.
Most of his service comprised of stealing food for his fellow troops.
There you go, good sir. You're like a really good caseworker.
Put it to good use. Put your skills to good use, man.
He served 3 short terms of 2 months each.
6
Wow.
months.
But as it became apparent, well, at the time they signed you up for just 2-month terms because that was what they were doing.
Well, let me
but
laugh
when it
at it
became
still.
apparent that the war would last a long time, the revolutionary governments changed the terms to 3 years.
Wow, that's a big jump up. Could have been like 3 months or something like that.
I just signed up. I heard I got 60 days. Nope.
Fine print.
Sorry, buddy. They changed the rule.
A little clerical error.
Yeah.
You're going to be here a while.
60. Add another 0. I don't know how many days are in 3 years.
Having no interest in doing anything for that
600.
long, especially fighting a war, Henry decided it was time to leave the army and finally become a professional burglar.
He's like, I'm going to school. I'll be back.
He's going to have like a diploma over his desk. See that right there?
And he dressed like the Hamburglar, correct?
He's in the union. Yeah, I'm in the burglary 602.
I do not work off the card.
Are you being
I am-
serious? Is there like different levels of burglary where you're like, this is a pro burglar?
The difference between the main difference between a pro and amateur bugler is the tools. Henry began to build top-notch buglery kits. He had augers, saws, and a large collection of false keys, which he could use to open nearly any lock, and acid, which he would
Which he would eat and listen
Which
to
he
Frank
took
Zappa
and
while he was
then-
robbing people.
And caught butterflies with.
I met God last night when I took that vase. A lot of tracers.
which could be used to soften the iron of the latches. So you'd pour acid into a lock.
That seems safe.
It would soften the iron.
Yeah, I just feel like
then
just the splash alone makes me nervous.
Yeah, that's like that. You got to be a real. If he would have put his burglary skills to
what's that? What was that word again?
burglary,
I don't think you got it
I
right.
don't know.
I don't
It's
know
almost
what
like
he's
I
talking
don't
about. It
hear.
seems strange.
what do you call it? Buglery.
What do we call it? Well, we just call it by the correct term.
Buglery.
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 He hid his kits all across the countryside. Oh, you had a point you were gonna make? Sorry.
You robbed him of his point time.
Nah, forget it. I forget what I was going to say. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just glad we got you on the straight and narrow.
Buglery.
Young man like you, you know?
Buglery.
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 Henry hid his kits all across the countryside so he could be ready for any job without the constant risk of being apprehended with the telltale items.
So he had multiple versions of these kits. He had
Wow.
like
Yeah,
separate.
so
Runs
rather than
hard.
carrying the weapon, all the criminal tools, which could get you in a lot of trouble,
You could just grab them real quick before it.
boom.
I'm going to hit that sector up. That subdivision's got it over there in that parcel. Yeah,
Exactly.
That's how you lay out your bagoolery kits, folks.
Along
Parcels
with
and
bugoolery,
subdivisions. Yeah.
Henry developed another valuable trade,
Oh, he's professional now, Jon Huck.
horse theft.
Oh, yeah. You coming with me, little fella? We're going to have ourselves some sex.
To avoid arrest, he developed another set of tools specific for horse napping.
Yeah, I'm going to ride you, and you're going to ride me.
When he
And then he was killed when he got ridden by the horse.
On a farm in Washington.
First, when he selected a horse from the barn, he would fit them with one of his many sets of cork shoes of leather soles, so he could lead the horse away without the sounds of footsteps.
Clever.
Wow.
This guy is a clever
Well,
burglar.
my point earlier was going to be if this guy would have put his skills,
Ingenuity?
yeah, his ideas to work in at a legitimate job. He
That
probably
is
would have been-
78% of the people on this show.
Yeah,
The other 22% are just, you were always going to be a problem.
yeah.
But a lot of them, you're like,
Just
wow.
misplaced. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not easy to get jobs, folks. I mean, look at it. You could be a genius and be like, well, where do I fill out an application? You know, he doesn't know. He's got to steal this horse.
You always apply inside.
Henry also had a collection of paints and dyes he would use to alter the animal's appearance so that even the owner would usually fail
Oh, this
to
blue
recognize
horse?
his own.
No, this blue horse is mine. I don't know what you're talking about. I've never heard of Steve the horse. This is my guy. His name is Ed, and he's blue.
You never seen a checkered horse before?
Just painted like a weirdo at a sporting event.
This is my mural horse. That's the ocean on his side. Isn't that weird?
What if it was like they're spray painted like the side of those vans from the 70s? They're just airbrushed to the horse.
yeah.
Like, oh man, is that like Stairway to Heaven like laid out on the side of the
It's
horse?
got that one, that cool circular window, and there's pot smoke coming out of the horse.
It's like a wizard touching a gnome.
Oh,
he just has a horse that says Henry was, spelled W-U-Z. Henry was here on the side of the horse.
Sure.
Mister, that looks like the horse that was just stolen, only it's blue.
Nah, you're wrong, kid.
Nah, that's a blue horse.
You sure?
Don't be an idiot.
Horses are blue now.
But he's got the same tires and rims.
It's 1770 something.
Those are
Horses
cork
blue.
shoes. You don't worry about those cork shoes.
Yeah, forget about it.
Forget about what?
Exactly.
He fell off a truck.
The horse fell off a truck?
Yeah.
Oh, I feel bad for this imaginary horse's knees.
Trailer.
Once after a particularly detailed equine makeover,
What's that mean?
horse makeover.
Oh, yeah, equine, equestrian. Yep, I know the Latin derivatives of these words, kid. I went to college.
Henry joined the
I didn't.
posse looking for him using the very horse he was riding.
Love that move. Hide in plain sight. Join the fight. Let's get him.
Another time, he stole a horse, sold it, then stole it back to collect a reward from the original owner.
Uh-huh.
Poor horse is just like, can I just, I'm a person over here.
Where am I supposed to get my hay?
When a particularly confident horse breeder bragged that no one could steal his prize animal.
Uh-oh.
Henry said, fuck you.
Yeah.
I think I got this, bruh.
Come and get me?
Hold
Okay.
my beer. He approached the stables that night and began chatting with the guards, warning them to be on the lookout for a particularly cunning thief named Henry Tufts.
Dude, so many criminals. Dude, it's like it is such a part of the criminal boner is to go to deal with people and oh God, what is the wording that I'm looking for, Slaton? When they're interacting with people, being like, "Hey, you think the crook did this, or you think the arson would have done this, or if I'm looking for
Dope.
this killer." It's so funny that they all
Coolest
love to be
thing
on the
ever.
scene.
It's an ego thing, man. At that point, he's become this master thief who he thinks.
They're all Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
They love it.
Well, they are all.
They
Bugs
love
Bunny.
going to the scene and being like, "What are you?"
hunting for, Doc?
Yeah, it's just
Yeah, you looking for rabbits?
It's exactly right. Show up, lean on the tree. Hey, what are you doing? We're looking for this guy who steals. Yeah, you better watch out. His name's Henry. He's a fucking maniac.
yeah.
The
love
guards,
it.
the guards agreed as they'd
So
heard
silly.
Henry was quite the rogue.
Thanks for warning us. You're such a kind gentleman.
And what was your name? My name is Henry Cuff.
Makes me wonder how many murderers we met at CRiiiME.
The one thing he can't do is create fake names off the top of his head.
Jesus.
It's like that's where he fails. He's like, I'm Henry
I'm Henry Huffs.
I just didn't switch the letters. What?
to please to meet you.
Then the guards shared a drink from Henry's bottle, which contained a mixture of rum
Hilarious.
and
poison.
opium.
He's put him out.
Ooh.
He's literally like,
First of all, hey, don't be bogarting that bottle.
Right?
Rum and
Seriously.
opium. Yikes.
Honestly, I think what happened next is worth it. He mounted the horse, and as they slipped to the floor, he lectured them on the vice of drinking.
Oh, so they get knocked out because he drugged them, and then he says, guys, just say no.
Seriously.
this guy's a weird, creepy, kinky criminal.
Yeah.
He is.
Then
By
he
the
teabagged them and ran off into the wilderness.
You had to teabag him, didn't you?
By the 1780s, Henry Tufts had developed a wide array of skills. For a while, he worked as a healer, claiming to have been trained by Molly Ockett, a famous medicine woman of the Abenaki tribe. which she's famous enough that she has there's a school named after her now.
Sure.
There's a Molly Ockett festival, so on and so forth.
The Molly Ockett Festival.
It's unverified how successful he was.
Are you sure you're not pronouncing that Molly Hatchet? Is that how the band? No.
I think I've heard of them.
Okay, all right. I'm 1,000, everybody. In case my voice sounded young, youthful, and hip, it's not.
You're listening to the Old Man's Comedy Show.
This is going to air on AM radio, correct?
This is
Only
Good.
exclusively AM.
we
radio.
have kids put this on the interwebs.
I have a
We
ham
only
radio.
appear on numbers that are 3 digits long.
Will I be? Oh, this is going to be on.
On AM 680.
Good. Oh, you have a real low end of the AM.
All the grandpa stations.
It's gonna be real scratchy when you tune in.
KFW.
Sounds like it's a record of us.
It's unverified how successful Henry was at actually healing people. Next,
Unverified? I can guess he never healed anybody. I mean, are we really? Is there unverified? Like, he might have helped a couple people to walk, but they could already walk, and he was just helping.
He
One
wrote
time
the
he
original Secret.
he cured a cold by saying, "Hey, just wait it out." I guess.
You gotta feed a cold and starve anger.
He's like, you're just not willing, like,
Starve your
antibodies.
anger.
That's what you're doing. You're not willing the antibodies to, to fight your disease.
Have you tried these adult chewable vitamin C pills?
You just need a drawing board where you don't have the flu. Just a vision board without the flu.
He just rubs Vic Vapor Rub on everybody's throat.
Vic Vapor Rub?
Vic's,
Vic's plural.
Vic's Vapor Rub.
No,
on
Vic
everybody.
Vapor. Hey, how you doing? I'm Vic
There's
Vapor.
a guy named
Vic
Vic.
Vic
Back
Vapor,
then,
you
it was
know.
just a guy named Vic.
Vic Vapor sounds like the name of an Italian guy who
came on your chest.
who blows big smoke clouds
Rub it
in shitty competitions.
How you doing? I'm Vic Vapor.
I'm Vic Vapor. Check this out. I'll make a spaceship.
Or like an Armenian guy named Vache Vapor. Hello, I have my own smoke stores. I have all the vapors you like.
Vic and Vache,
Vache Vapor.
little known fact, are 2-time back-to-back finalists in the Vape Cloud Championships.
Ooh.
See?
Yeah.
There you go. It's too perfect. The name it affects who you are. It affects who you are.
Son, you're born to be a vape champion.
Well, I don't know if they knew what it was going to affect them. It just does. I don't think you plan ahead of time.
You
just
plan.
Yeah, do you? Okay, you
Oh,
plan.
man.
You
Honey,
plan.
we're gonna get our son vaping early, so he has a chance at a career at this thing.
I think you are very right, honey.
He's got to make money at this, or then what's the point?
Next, he took advantage of a wave of evangelical revivals sweeping across the Northeast.
Oh, yeah, yes. Same group of people, right?
Henry bought a black suit and set off to preach the word and save souls, all for the humble reward of food, shelter, and donations. This time, he did very well, making money all over New England.
And
think?
probably robbing these people as well.
The only time he ran into trouble was at a small church in Little Falls, Maine, when a young woman objected after another man called Henry a saint. She jumped to her feet and said that if he was a saint, then so was the devil, because, quote, on entrance into the meeting, that he first surveyed my face, then my feet, then my whole person, in such a carnal way and manner that I perceived he had the devil in his heart.
Oh, he was looking at her like...
So he looked her up and down like, "Ooh, would I like to get some of that?" And she was like, "Hey, pervert, you're Satan."
Can you imagine living in a society where you get judged for looking at the opposite sex and licking your lips? I mean, I can.
Well, he went face, then feet,
Yeah.
then all the way back up.
But what bothered her was the feet, because she knows about the fetish porn.
The woman was probably not wrong.
The fetish porn of the 1700s.
Just beating off on feet, dude.
Just some hay around there, and like
Had
he
to
had
be a
so much
thing.
livestock. The
Horse-
dowry is going to be wonderful when we're
Horse
married.
feet, goat feet.
He loves my
human
footsies.
feet.
By this point, Henry had married at least 3 women and promised to the same to nearly a dozen more.
Old horny Henry, they call him.
Horny Henry. One thing I won't steal is your time.
But his reputation meant that even back then, it was difficult for him to keep his relationship secret. Eventually, every new wife and fiancé would learn of his other marriages and kick him to the curb, at which point he would always return to Lydia.
The first girl?
And she'd take him back?
By this point, it may have been more out of convenience than love because she had birthed 9 of his children.
Woo!
Many of them had grown into successful young men who supported their mother financially.
Oh, so they must have loved it when scumbag dad started poking around again.
Yeah.
Hey,
heard you
sorry I
got,
missed your game, but can I have...
Yeah, can I have $50?
I got a horse, you know.
It's a different horse than the one that you had. I know it looks like yours.
I got
didn't
a
steal
blue
it.
polka dotted horse that I think is going to be a winner.
This guy's robbing his kids.
Henry Tufts' criminal career came to an end in 1793
Ah, what a good year.
when he was arrested for the theft of 6 silver spoons.
6 silver spoons, like 6 Silver Spoon episodes.
Yes,
The
specifically.
show, Silver Spoons, Rick Schroeder.
It
I'm
started
a
in
thousand, everybody.
They were
I'm
all-
a thousand.
They were
Silver Spoon
tapestries back
started-
then.
Silver Spoon started in 1784. That's right.
But this time, Henry didn't do it.
By NBC.
Oh, that's what did him in, a crime he didn't commit.
Looking for a gift for his newest side wife, he'd purchased the spoons from his friend, Jon Stewart, who said he found them while cleaning his cellar.
And hosting The Daily Show.
But
Very
then
clever.
a
Very clever
neighbor-
riff about the Daily Show right there, Jon Stewart.
But then a neighbor came by for a visit and recognized the spoons as stolen. Henry was arrested.
Imagine a world where you're worried about your spoons. you
Also,
know?
where somebody notices the spoons and goes, hey, those spoons aren't yours.
Those are my spoons.
Those are the spoons. Those are the spoons.
These spoons.
Or you
We
actually,
all-
How
they're
dare
not even your spoons. You recognize your friend's spoons. You're like,
Yeah.
those are Tim's spoons.
Oh,
Yeah.
man,
Wait.
I know those spoons. Anyway.
Yeah, I've seen those. We eat with those when I go to Tim's. What the hell's going on? This guy's shady.
Every time I travel 57 miles to visit my friend Tim, we use his
Every
spoons.
time I walk a thousand days.
That's all you had to do in those days, though. There's no air conditioning. You know, you're not going to stay at home.
Henry was arrested, but he felt confident that the law would be on his side.
Yes, I only have a very long rap sheet.
I've only just disobeyed and broken every rule.
I only have a reputation as a solid criminal. No question about it.
People are going to assume that I've done something wrong that I haven't been punished for, and they will punish me for this.
He explained what happened, and the court brought in Stewart to testify. But before answering a single question, Stewart bolted from the courtroom.
What? He just ran. What is he, Homer Simpson?
The sheriff, who happened to hold a long-standing grudge against Henry, didn't really try to stop him. It's kind of like, hey, don't, yeah.
Hey, come back. Don't.
All right.
No, you're gone already?
My foot kind of hurts. Whatever, I'll catch you later.
I have gout.
Without a witness to clear his name, Henry Tufts, the man who'd been stealing for over 30 years, was sentenced to be, quote, hanged by the neck until dead.
Ooh, not just hanged until like a pizza party breaks out, but hanged until
He was going to
Yeah.
die for the spoon theory?
Well, it was for, like, the collection of his ridiculous
They're just like, you're a
years.
no good person to have
It's
around.
time to kill you. We've jailed you a lot. Doesn't work very well. The execution was set for August 14th, 6 weeks away.
Oh my God! To think you were gonna die for those spoons, and you didn't do them. You're like, I'm square now. Don't you
Well,
understand?
he wasn't though. He just didn't get caught for.
Yeah.
He just didn't do that crime. It's not. If he would have gotten away, he would have then gone on to continue to rob people and. Steal
So you
horses.
want to hang this guy for spoons?
No, I'm telling you
Yes.
that the thought back then would be, look, he's no good.
Yeah.
Like we gotta, and also he's probably lived longer than his
Yeah, yeah.
life expectancy.
As Henry sat in
He's
a
14, Your Honor. I mean, he's practically dead anyways. Like,
Put him in a home or kill him.
As
Kill.
Henry sat in a very secure prison awaiting his death, forces on the outside were working in his favor. One of the jurors was unconvinced that Henry was guilty. It had taken several votes for the other jurors to get him on their side. Still, something felt wrong, so the juror went to petition the new governor of Massachusetts to ask for mercy. Henry also wrote a letter to the same effect. With less than 2 weeks to go, Henry had yet to receive a reply. But he did receive visitors. A doctor came by, but not for an examination. After the doc continued with endless small talk, Henry asked him to get to the point. The doctor made his offer.
can you hurry up? I have a hanging that I have to be hung out in a
I've
couple
got a
minutes.
lot to do.
My checklist is...
I would try to. I'd be like, please filibuster this conversation.
My honey-do list is getting so... You ever just have 3 wives
I
and
have 3
10
wives.
fiancés?
I have 15 kids.
What- are they coming-
have
so
kids
many-
now.
Are they
What's the
coming
plan?
to visit him while he's in this death row thing? Like,
I don't know.
I'm guessing no.
The doctor finally made his offer. A little bit of money and a couple of favors in exchange for Henry's skeleton.
I would have been so bummed.
Oh,
I would have been so bummed. Can you imagine sitting through that and be like, he's going to explain to me how he's going to get me out of here? And it's like, I'm still getting hung at the end of this deal?
for your skeleton.
Yeah.
Henry declined the offer.
Yeah, suck my dick, doctor. Fucking negative. Come up with a
Next.
better fucking plan. I'm in jail. They're gonna hang me. You're offering me. What am I gonna do with the fucking money?
The doctor's like, well, I wasn't here for a plan. I just want your bones.
Next, another gentleman offered him $70.
Guards, get this guy the fuck out of here.
Another gentleman offered him $70 to purchase the rights to his life story.
Can you guys start filtering out who's coming to visit me with people that have a plan to just get me out of here, and then we'll take it from there.
And they're like, yeah, sure, that's what we'll do.
The next person like, this guy wants to do something with my dead body too. Can you guys listen to me here?
In a show of optimism, Henry turned him down just in case he survived long enough to write the story himself.
You fucking assholes.
Now,
Henry doesn't know that once he's dead, people can just write about him, right?
finally, an order came in for his transfer to the castle in Boston Harbor, where he was to serve a sentence for life in prison. His death sentence had been commuted by the new governor of Massachusetts, a man named Samuel Adams.
Oh, well. know.
The guy who made the beer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Always a good
The
choice.
beer guy pardoned the thief?
Yeah.
Go figure. Didn't see that one coming.
That's awesome. But then he still gave him a life sentence for stealing spoons. So either way, Henry's having a shit
Well, I
life.
mean, maybe he escaped. What happens?
Henry Tufts remained in the castle for 5 years until 1798, when ownership of the island on which the prison sat was transferred from Massachusetts to the new U.S.
We're
government.
transferring ownership of the island, man.
All the prisoners were removed from the island, and Henry was transferred to the jail in Salem. It didn't take him long to discover a weakness in the walls and escape.
He got out.
He was either burned as a witch or he walked away.
He went home to discover his family had moved to Maine.
He owns those.
He got all the way back home. He's like, I'm just going to go back to my wife again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what a psycho.
Now in his 40s and presumably tired of running
Only
from
in
the
his
law.
40s. He's done
I thought he was like
all
60
this.
or 70.
He sounds 90
I
at
thought
this
he was
point,
60 or
yeah.
70. He's
He was-
40.
He was born in 48 and it's 98. So
Still the
50s?
1700s.
50s.
Yeah.
It's the end of the 1700s.
Early 50s.
Yeah. Henry Tufts tracked down his original wife, earned her forgiveness, and settled into the life of a farmer and healer.
This guy must have had a huge dick.
That's I didn't want to be uncouth about it because the show is so clean, but that's most of what the story's about.
Oh,
It's
is the
this
show
huge dick.
clean?
Well, yeah. I mean, have you not heard us the entire time? We have made 0 dirty jokes. And
okay.
Wait, it's really you read about how big this guy's penis was?
no, not at all.
Oh.
In 1807,
So confused.
Henry Tufts wrote his autobiography, a narrative of the life, adventures, travels, and sufferings of Henry Tufts.
It's too long of a title.
I like it.
There's actually even more title. I cut the title
You
short.
cut it. You
That's
edited
the
it
shortened
down?
version.
It should have just been called Tufts. Suck it.
Well, I'm a writer, you see, so why would I write a long title? You know, the more words shows how much I know.
He passed away in 1831 at the age of 83.
Whoa.
So he got out, never got back into prison? Like he lived on the lam his whole life?
No, he lived in Maine with his wife.
But that's considered on the lam, dude.
Well,
He's
they
supposed to be in
could-
jail.
I mean, yeah, I guess.
It kind of, but they probably just were like,
Fucking.
yeah. You think
Whatever.
the old days, they're like, go fetch him. You're like, he's all the way in Maine. Like, oh,
Maine.
you didn't say
Have
so.
you been to Maine?
It's so
Like,
far.
Isn't that where they have the lobster? A lot
I
of.
don't want to go antiquing. The antiques are only like 10 years old right now.
Is that where the?
They're not even old yet. They're just stuff.
They're teaks.
They're not even ants.
Is that where they filmed What Lies Beneath? Is that Maine?
Today's sources include Early American Criminals by Anthony Vapor, The New England Historical Society, Doctor, Preacher, Soldier, and Thief by Daniel Williams,
And the Board of Tourism for Maine.
NPR's All Things Considered, History.org, EarlyAmericanCrime.com, and, of course,
The wonderful yogurts of Gooberville.
The Evil Robots at Wikipedia.
That is what I said.
That's the story of Henry Tufts.
Holy
That is
fuck.
pretty fantastic.
That's so cool. He lived 40 more years after that. Maybe he became a good dude and like straightened out.
well, and also the thing is, he's not a murderer. He didn't murder anybody.
He was just kind of a shyster.
He's
though.
not even a rape. He's a horny dude. He likes to bone down. Had a lot of kids.
No, he was better than a murderer or rapist, but he was still kind of a shyster.
Yeah, I mean, but he's like.
I didn't want him to get hung, John. Don't get me wrong.
No, but I feel like he
Not a great house guest. Other than that, though,
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't trust that guy around my
steals your
stuff.
spoons and
He'd
tries to burn his way out of your home.
He'd be a comic that we don't offer our couch to when they're on the road,
It'd
for
be-
sure.
It'd be great if
But-
you do offer. He tries to burn himself out of the. You're like, hey man, this isn't a jail.
You
This
can
is
just
my
leave.
apartment. You could have just walked through the door.
totally
You're
fine.
screwing up my lease too. I mean, dude, you burnt the wall.
Yeah, thanks, man.
You could have just had it.
Guys, if you want to see our good friend Jon Huck, you have 2 great chances this summer. For those of you in Southern California, he'll be at the Brea Improv headlining on July 31st.
Hell yeah!
And then those of you on the East Coast, he'll be at the Comedy Loft in D.C. August 8th and 9th. And you can find our good buddy Jon Huck on the interwebs at...
I'm on Twitter at JONHUCK, Instagram at JON_HUCK, and for show dates, you can always go to johnhuck.me.
You
Yeah.
can follow our show on all social medias at CRiiiMEPod, CRiiMEPOD. You can email the show, CRiiiMepodcast@gmail.com for questions, comments, story ideas, dick pics, label those for Shefsky.
Stop doing that.
Specifically, well, we got one, by the way.
Oh, God, it was funny.
It took
And
us,
you know who you are. You're listening right now. I
it took us
guarantee
over
it.
a year
Hilarious.
to get a real dick pic, and this one was aggressive.
It was,
This was
funny.
serious.
You did a good. I don't know if you were trying to be funny in that picture.
That was a
hilarious.
no joke dick pic, bro.
The text didn't. I was very surprised that a dick pic was going to be
It was-
the attachment
it
on
was
that
a
email.
lot.
Very interesting. I
You're a
appreciate it.
legend.
It was great. And to anybody else, don't fucking send us that. Send us clip pics.
If you do, label those for Shefsky, though.
Thank you.
You can also support the show in a number of different ways. You can go on iTunes, give us those 5-star rating reviews. They help out
thank you so much.
so much.
Click the share button on iTunes. Share it with your friends.
Share the story with somebody. That's the biggest thing. Like, look, the Patreon's great. We love you being part of the Patreon. Those of you who are on the Sticker of the Month Club.
The Patreonarchy. We got to bring it down.
You totally rock. But the biggest thing is tell your friends about us. Hit the share button. Send this episode to somebody else who you know will enjoy it, or to someone you think will hate it, because that's even more fun.
Yeah. Torture people.
Seriously. Torture them, right?
I also have a podcast I forgot to mention.
Oh, fuck yeah.
How many
that?
plugs does this motherfucker have?
called-
Swiss cheese over here.
It's called Hollywood Anonymous. I co-host it with Brian Irwin, and it's
Who?
Brian Irwin.
Who? Say the theme of your show is the name of the thing.
Nobody knows who we are.
See what I
Get
did
it?
that?
Wow, you're such a good riffer, Slaton. That's my job.
I nailed it, guys.
That's my job. I riff. You be serious.
We love each and every one of you in a personal, emotional
Oh
way.
my God, we do. We're grateful. Thank you guys so much for your support,
Oh,
your love.
and we almost forgot. Saturday, June 30th, Crime Live comes back to the Comedy Store Belly Room. Promo codes are going. For those of you on Patreon, you're going to get your super VIP promo codes. For those of
So
you
excited.
For those of you who want to, the first 10 people who email us will get a promo code for free tickets to the show. After those ones go, we'll have some other cool like half off type stuff available for you. Hit us up Saturday, June 30th, Comedy Store. Come get some. Bye, robot.
Bye, guys. We love you. Thank you for everything. Peace. Come to Crime Live June 30th.